Benito Martinez. You played Alonzo Gutierrez on American Crime. He's a struggling father. Let's just say he's a little overprotective, and he's trying to keep his son on the right side of the law, so to speak. Tell us about who this guy is at his core.
Well, really, basically, he's a single father. You know, he's got 2 kids. He wants to keep them both on the right side of the law. He's trying to make sure that what he considers bad influences are kept at bay, you know, for his daughter, for obvious reasons, for his son, so that he can live a better life. So at his core, he has this, what's the best way to explain it? He has this set of rules that he lives by, and he believes that these rules will get him by. It'll solve all his problems. And then, of course, when the problems happen, these rules don't apply. These rules don't work. Being completely honest is not the right way sometimes, and makes all the problems bigger. So his challenge in life is then to realize that this set of rules that he wants to, you know, adhere to is actually the wrong thing to do. So the journey, so the journey is in discovering, you know, who his kids really are, who he himself really is, and how to get back home.
And what would you say the biggest challenge playing Alonzo was during the run of the first series?
For Alonzo, the biggest challenge was to make to get to that point where he becomes aware that he has to change, that what he's doing in his world isn't changing, so he must change. The biggest challenge for Benito was being away from my family, because we moved to Austin to film it. And here I am portraying this father who cares deeply about his kids and missing his wife, and, you know, who in the story, she passed away, where my kids I'm missing greatly, and one's in college and one's in high school, and, you know, my wife's at home going, "Hey, where are you?" So that was the hardest part. But of course, I have a very supportive and loving family, so we got through that a lot easier than what Alonzo goes through.
Yeah, you could see a lot of the pain though in Alonzo's life, and it's one of the storylines that many of us viewers really latched onto, because for many of us who have children and families, obviously we can relate to that, and trying to keep your kids on the straight and narrow and trying to, you know, lead by example, all those things are really fundamental to many of us as parents. So just from your personal perspective, did you find that you were drawing from that in order to play this guy?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, when I read the script, I was both guys. I was Tony. I remember being that kid, that young kid who just looked up to his father, but yet I had my own things that I was doing on the side, and I thought I knew what was what. And the father character is part me and part my dad. My dad was actually a mechanic. My dad had served in the military, so he had the set of rules. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Put the tools where they belong. You know, even though you're a mechanic, you can't ever have oil underneath your fingernails. That was a detail that I made sure to keep in the piece, because they always wanted to dirty my hands. They were like, "Well, you're a mechanic." I said, "Yep, so is my dad." And the rule was you don't have to have oil all over your hands. So there were both sides of that I understood. That relationship was a genuine, real relationship that I had experienced on both sides. The wonderful challenge about Alonzo that I didn't know was being a widower, and that was profound for me, because my wife Roberta, was still a character in the piece that, you know, oftentimes silently I would say, if only she were here, you know, to help me out, to calm my anger, to let me take a deep breath. So that was interesting. That came along as the piece rolled on. She was always there, and yet finally when we get to the end and we have a beautiful scene with my daughter, you know, one of the improvs we did, I just said, you know, your mother would be proud, and it just came out because that other character that was never in except for through a picture. That was the weird thing that happened during the filming.
That's fascinating. So many of the characters on American Crime, I would call them broken or lost. It's like it was a nice overview of so many different perspectives, and yet everybody was suffering with their own loss or their own pain. Alonzo's pain, obviously, was obviously his wife had passed away, and he, you know, they're living in a rough part of town, perhaps. His kids, he's worried about them. And I'm curious, I mean, you've partly answered the question already, but did you have a particular scene from the first 11 episodes that you remember as your highlight, or a scene that you really enjoyed doing or you loved?
I have to say, I am truly blessed. I have a whole bunch of them. Different parts of Alonzo get examined. Like you, I examined the piece. I think the whole piece is just like what you said. You know, I likened it to a glass window that was shattered. And what the show does is we examine all the broken pieces, because it was once a whole, and yet separately they still have their own life. There's an amazing scene in the pilot where my son is ripped away from me, and that broke my heart to the nth degree. And that was one of the wonderful, challenging, horrible things that I went through in that, as an actor, as an experience, to feel that child being ripped away from you. I have a scene that's it's a bit of a monologue where I'm trying to explain. This is, I think, in episode 3, 2 or 3, and I'm explaining, you know, please let me have my son back. They've never been away from me. You know, I work extra long hours. I need them. I'm the right answer for them. Their home is the right place. And that desperation that this man has never felt before. He never in his life thought that what he's done, what he's created, this home, the safe environment, would ever be the wrong place. And yet that's what ends up happening. There's another heartbreaking scene that I have, is when I go to the jail and I'm out of answers, and I ask him to please lie. And I think this is what we need to do finally. And he says, I'm not going to lie. Like, now you're not going to lie? Great. You know, your brain just melts.
Yeah.
So there, I have a plethora of those ones. But then, you know, you have the reconciliation when I get to hug him again, and he hugs me back. You know, that's a very powerful scene for me, because the journey is just so crooked in between. So those are some markers that I have that really just go.
A lot of highlights. I mean, it would have been such a great experience for so many of you on the cast to have this journey for these characters. Working alongside Johnny Ortiz would have been interesting, because he's really at the beginning of his career. It's really a breakthrough role for him. You've been on television, film, stage, all over the place for a very long time. You're a very familiar face for many of us. Were you able to impart anything onto Johnny as a newcomer? How did you find working with him? Because he was, I mean, quite outstanding as well.
He absolutely. Working with both these kids, they're artists, and they come at it from completely different ways. And to see their growth over the course of the year, you know, and Johnny is somebody who doesn't like energy or conviction. And you can't really try to stop that. In fact, that is his talent. So thankfully, I've been around enough and seen a lot enough, and been able to work with enough, that when this was bubbling up, I was just like, man, you go. Go with your instincts. Go with, you know, trust John, the director, who was incredible with this new talent, these young talented people. And let's see where we get to. Let's just see, you know, I'm no judgment. You know, I might have an idea of where we should go, but you go. Let's see what happens. And it was that kind of marriage of talents. You know, he didn't know much about me at all. He was like, well, who are you? And where'd you come from? Like, well, I've been doing this for a bit, but it's okay. That does not matter. You know, in this realm and here today, it's two actors trying to make a real situation. And he's on a roll. He's gone from film to film, and he's really in the middle of a great storm. So that was fantastic. And where Glendalise is the opposite. Glendalise came in, you know, very humble, very quiet, very, you know, it's all about the subtext and the moments, and the, you know, there was a different kind of handling that she had with her material. So it was just, I loved it. It was fantastic. And then, you know, so
cool. The show at its heart is about prejudice, bigotry, racism, a whole bunch of other themes that ran through it as an undercurrent as we examined these people. But Alonzo's story fascinated me because, you know, he still had his own prejudices about maybe people in his own racial or ethnic group that might have been illegal or might not have been, they didn't come there the right way. You know, there was things that even he said that it kind of shocked us at first because we don't expect to hear that on broadcast television from someone like that. And I'm wondering how that came across for you and how you thought that came across on the show, the theme of prejudice from all different people, regardless if they were Islamic or Christian or black, white. It's fascinating.
It was a process for me. I'll go from the back, second question forward. But when we would get a script and we'd read it, you're going, "Oh my God, we're going to cover this subject? No way! You're going to say that?" Oh, and then we'd go to the table, read, and we all look up, and it was just fascinating, the conviction that each of us had to have to be able to say these words, to be able to have this point of view that might be, you know, not very popular or popular, but with a subculture, or, you know, whatever it was, but it was coming from a genuine point of view. I thought that took conviction. I thought that John's mission to have these kind of conversations and brought out from the dark to the open air was brilliant. And the fact that I'm having a racist conversation about racist views or my own personal views with another Latino who had the opposite views and somebody I loved, somebody who cared about me, was a great way to explore these things. Ultimately, it wasn't about the race that we were talking about. It wasn't about that at all. It was about how I was hurt. Alonzo's initial attack is defending his children. And it's been that way all along. You have tattoos, get away. If you're breaking the law over there, get away. If you're an illegal, get away. It was the same principle, like, we're going to go to church and we're going to stay away from bad elements. And if you happen to be illegal, and I'm not, I take offense to that because I'm trying to provide a legal situation, whether you're an illegal or just doing illegal things. So that's his defense. I don't, you know, and in his journey, I think he learns to lighten that up. The church tells him, you know, it's going to be easier if you're not around, pal. And it's like, oh, yeah, oh, from church? Really? Love thy neighbor only on Saturdays. Okay.
Okay.
You know, and that was a wonderful twist that John put into it. It's like, not, you know, sometimes you do offend more than you expect. And that was the journey, the process. And I hope that people had these discussions within their families at the dinner table about these events, because you're going to have both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, you're no stranger to critical acclaim. American Crime has been very well received and is probably on the radar for Emmy nominations next month. But going back in time to, for me, the role that many of us will always remember you for, which is as David Acevedo on The Shield. I'd just love you to take us back to that time. And if you maybe just give us one highlight from your days on The Shield. That was such an extraordinary show and such a great cast. And you've all moved on to great things. But what was that experience like, working on a show that people really, really loved?
You know, you found out how much it was loved when you were out in the street and people didn't just say, "Oh, that show, great job." They would go, "You're on The Shield, man!"
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
And it was like, and there was this visceral. They would, "Oh, you're such an asshole. Leave Vic alone." You know, they had an opinion. They were just like, "Oh," and I loved it because we were under their skin. You know, they related to these characters. They were caught up in the thing. You know, and it was that gray area about cops doing good things, cops doing maybe bad things. The good cops, you know, was I crooked or was I trying to save a city? Was I, you know, such a politician that I never did a good policing thing? You know, there was this, both sides of the coin we examined. But what set it off, one of the highlights for me is Clark Johnson, who directed the pilot, who's a brilliant actor and directed, you know, did Homicide: Life on the Streets as an actor and then also as a director. But a very intelligent man. And he came up to me during the pilot and said, "Remember, man, at all times, this is your house. You know, Vic Mackey's going to be walking around like, you know, cock of the crow and whatever, but this is your house. And he went over to Vic Mackey, went over to Michael Chiklis, said, remember, this is your house. But David Acevedo, he's just a suit up in the room. This is your, and we were both given this assignment. So every time we went for each other, I was like, no, this is my, I was always going to win every argument. I was going to always win it. And so was he, because we were given that as a mission. And we didn't find that out till much, much later, but it was brilliant. And that was the kind of dynamic that we set up, and all of it was revolving around this moral center, CCH Pounder. It was that simple within its structure. But Sean Ryan and the incredible staff and Scott Brazil, God rest his soul, they did an amazing job of just trying not to make a traditional cop show, but really examine the personal experience in this kind of cop world, against many different options. And what happens if you open this door? What happens if you close this door? In my particular case, my big thing is image. Thing was image and having this outward appearance. And then the worst possible macho demasculating thing could happen to him.
Yeah.
And then he had to still maintain that lie, that image. And how did it fracture his mind, his soul? How did he get himself back? How do you move on from that? And so that was a wonderful examination about that crushing spirit. Vic Mackey, he had everything in the beginning. And as he had all the power and money and women and drugs, but as the show wore on, he lost it all. Until finally he was living the worst possible hell he could live, which was he can't even be on the streets.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
It's poetic in that regard.
Absolutely. And moving from that amazing experience to more recently, you've been quite busy because you're also playing Senator Hector Mendoza on House of Cards, such a completely different role and series, especially even to American Crime. What can you tell us about getting involved with House of Cards?
It was a wonderful experience. I didn't want him to be like Acevedo at all. I thought that, well, to be honest, Underwood is more like Acevedo than it appears at first. They both have this oily quality to them that they're like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm right on it. I wanted Hector Mendoza to have a sense of you're not going to rattle me. Just it ain't going to happen. I'm not going to get hyped about anything. Whatever you want to do, I'm from Arizona. I'm as calm as can be. Go ahead, try your best. And it worked out really well. We sat down with Kevin Spacey, and the guy's amazing. And from our very first rehearsal, he just came at me guns blazing. All right, and right into it. That's my world, baby. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And we had our first rehearsal. It was brilliant. It was like, and it worked out from then on. We had a great relationship on screen, and they brought me back for more than expected. So yeah, it's been fun in working with Robin. I just kept getting lost in her eyes, just trying to battle this woman. Who's got the power struggle, and I just drift off into her eyes. And so no, but just wonderful people, great writing again, great directing, great atmosphere, creative atmosphere.
So what's next for you, Benito? Because we know American Crime is coming back. I'm not sure if all the actors will be involved this time. Where will we see you next?
Nor are we. We're still trying to figure that out, and I think that's a great way of approaching it. Kudos to John and Michael. What's going to make American Crime have year after year success is story first, and then find the best actors. That's the strength of the piece, and so kudos to them. We're still looking for the role for me, but I have faith in the process, and I have faith in the project. So if I don't go back this year, well, then I'll be their greatest fan, because I really think these are the stories that need to be told. I have faith in the project. I start filming. This is why I'm letting my hair grow long. I start filming a film called Mina, directed by Doug Liman and starring Tom Cruise. They've started filming. I joined them in Arkansas. It's about Oliver North and the Contra Sandinistas and Ronald Reagan, all that scandal. So I'll be joining them in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I completely forgot about Mina, of course. Yeah, that's so exciting, because given the last collaboration between Cruise and Lyman was incredible. So yeah, so much to look forward to there. I
was fortunate to work on a Lyman piece when I did Covert Affairs in Toronto, and he's executive producer on that. So it was my first introduction to that world with him. I very much look forward to it. It's a great character, and let's go have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, Benito, good luck for the Emmys coming up next month. We hope to see you in that list. You should have been nominated for Acevedo. That's one of the Emmy crimes of the past 10, 15 years. And good luck, mate. Hopefully we'll see you there.
All right, mate. Thank you very much.
All right, just stopping broadcast.